two types of the coin here. Let me read your last sentence back to you. With kids, there's two sides of the coin. Just gut it out, stay in a so-so situation or in a bad situation, so the kids have a normal household. And then I called you on normal, and then we're back.
Yeah, or is it better to show them all of who you are and show them a full heart space relationship that works at that level, so they have that kind of a blueprint to look at as well. And the other thing that I've realized is I couldn't give them all of me while I was surviving the marriage, because it was taking everything I had to survive it. And because my heart wasn't there, I wasn't experiencing, that joyful feeling, and there was just nothing left emotionally to give them. And that, combined with the structuring the outward appearance of making everything look right and going through the motions, there was nowhere left, nor the desire on my part or emotional resources to give them actually who I really was, and perhaps what they really needed from me, because I was already drained. I was spent, and
you were exhausted.
I was
were trying to tread water emotionally.
Yeah, that emotional fatigue is brutal. It's just 24/7.
Was it fighting, or was it just trying to talk yourself into this is okay, or what was it?
It was mostly just talking through it and saying it's okay. My biggest downfall and weakness was I struggled talking out my feelings. I just stuffed them down and not talk, and
said no man ever.
Right. in hindsight, it's like, that was a big part of my, what I did that made it not work, because you keep, without the communication, without, being honest and authentic and vulnerable. I don't know how, that's kind of the wheelhouse for a healthy relationship, is you got to go there and be comfortable being transparent.
So let's rewind back, and the man in the sky, whoever that is, says, "Hey, Chad, let's take you back to when you were 27. Here's this key thing that you learned at age 37."
Right.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Here's this key thing you earned at 37 after 30 years of marriage. It's amazing, the numbers, how they worked out that way.
Right.
And you took that knowledge, went all the way back to you at 25, 27, and said, okay, you have to be vulnerable and open and communicative. Does that change the marriage?
Possibly. There's that, and that's the one thing that I would say anybody that's considering moving on is.
Will you say that again?
That's the one thing I would say to anyone who's considering moving on is, there's no right, wrong, there's no winner. In a divorce, all you can do is do your best at just picking up from there and starting to build forward. And I forgot what
you're good.
the question was.
So let's take you here. So you've been struggling this whole time, just talking yourself into, I can do this, I can get this out, I'm staying for my kids. Then about 5 years before you left, you were really seeing the light and knowing that you would exit. Will you talk to me or us about those moments of when did you know? When were you? Because I'm guessing you didn't leave on a whim. Obviously,
right?
You were very introspective about this and had to be somewhat sure, I would guess. Will you talk to us about those moments?
Yeah, I think I can speak for me, and I'm assuming everybody kind of goes through this. When you go to counseling, when you do kind of the checklist of actions to try to create your solution and get you moving to the next place, before, during, and after that action, in that process, there's kind of a heart check-in of, okay, is this moving the needle in ultimately, what I did notice is the longer I went through the what I'd call rearranging furniture rearranging furniture in our relationship and tweaking, I realized that the end game of I've still got this emptiness. How do I? And it's not. This doesn't seem to be. Even I was even fine if it was just even incremental, even marginal. And sometimes I would get like little blips, but it's like, when me and my former wife had conversations or fights or whatever, I just realized the gap's it not only is it should be getting more and more narrow the more we get to know each other, the longer we're together. No, I'm not. And maybe by virtue of that, maybe a little bit easier just because, you hear the stories of people that are just grown old together and
that's the ideal, right?
That's the ideal, right? And it just didn't feel like the gap was getting any more narrow.
Was there a moment where you're like, now I know?
Yeah, I think back, earlier when I separated, and then I kind of did have a sense of freedom. Even, a surprising kind of epiphany was I wasn't necessarily sad when I was separated. I still saw my kids and for sure stayed involved in their lives. But it's like, not only did I not feel sad, it's like, oh my word, I can breathe again. I can, I had some hope again. And then about 8 months in, some because of, financial, some because of I probably should kind of get back in and see if I can, make this thing work. I moved back in, but then I had new information, after I had done the 8 month sabbatical, basically.
So the new information was I was actually happier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know why this is, but when you have space, when you move away from something for a minute, things get clearer. It's kind of like taking the camera and, and you adjust the lens setting to where it focuses. I think about my contact lens exam and how he turns that thing. Oh, well, I thought that was clear, but now it's really clear, and it's just marginal. And sometimes that separation has a way of really calibrating that in, and you realize, oh, okay, yeah, it's not as crystal clear as I thought, and that's when I knew, I knew one that there were some pretty big signs. It's like, no, if I was all in, and the gap was narrowing, the separation should have moved me closer to that.
You think that you would miss her, appreciate her?
Yep.
Was there any of that?
Yes, but still not to the level of. It swung more in the favor of. I need a significant change, and I've got to make a bold move. I can't do. It's going to require a bold shift to get a bold results.
Talk to us about bold moves. You've used that phrase before, and I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah. So recently, I've been thinking about. I just believe, and this kind of helped me through my divorce. I feel like we all deserve. She deserves to be happy. And I deserve to be happy. And then I've looked at happy versus joy. And I think happy is temporary. It's like having a good meal, enjoying an activity, and you're satisfied. And there's definitely places for that. I think joy is another level. Joy is sustained. Joy, you can just go back on the memory of it, and it feeds you. it never ends. And, the Bible talks about, men are that they might have joy. And I think there's certain things we do. If you want that level, I think the price is you've got to be bold at times in your life. Now, bold may not be ending your marriage. Bold may be finally sitting down and being vulnerable with your spouse and saying, I'm really concerned because I really want us to work, but here's what's going on with me. I thought about going there more than once, and I thought, one, she's going to be mad, or she's going to think I want out, and who knows? I mean, hindsight's 20/20. That's kind of the struggle maybe we all have in life, is you can't live backwards in it, and there's a million what ifs out there. I do know that at the time that I made that choice, it's like she deserves to be happy, and I've talked, I've decided there's a wide range of love. Sometimes we simplify it, say it's romantic love or love for a child, maybe 3 different types of love. I think there's a myriad of degrees of love, and I think self-love is one that often gets forgot about. And at what point do we love ourselves enough that says, my life is worth something, every minute I'm spending is worth it, it's priceless, because I will never get that back. It's the one thing that we can't go borrow more of, and it's the vehicle to have joy. So I deserve to have that, and and the people in my circle deserve to have that. So is the higher form of love, instead of gutting it out and settling for the sake of everything looking okay, but knowing you're never going to hit the joy level, and knowing they're not going to hit their joy level too, because my former wife would, we had lots of talks. She said, why are we doing this? And in my mind at the time, what I wanted to say was, you're right, I don't know why. And at the time, because I was, it was my month to be the strong one, I said, well, we'll figure it out. Let's just figure it out. We had a lot of time of just treading water, figuring it out. And then, ultimately, the thought came to my mind, or is the higher love at some point, and when you ask about when did I know, coming home about 5 years later from a soccer tournament from St. George with my son, the thought came to me, just a really strong feeling that you need to love her enough. If you know in your heart of hearts, you won't, and it was also a feeling if you've done enough to try to make it work. You've done enough. You've done all you can do. And now you need to love her enough to be the strong one, to let go and give her the space and the rest of her life so she can experience what right now she may be too scared to say yes to, and you need to be the strong one and give her her life and space in order that she can experience that as well. She deserves it, and you deserve it. But the highest loving choice may very well not be the easiest or happiest choice up front, but ultimately can be amazing on the other side of that.
Also, not the most conventional, right? Conventional is you made a vow, you stick it out, you get it out.
Yeah.
So lots of juicy things in there that I want to talk about. Now I can't remember any of them. Hold on. What's the difference between, you talk about self-love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the difference between I am being a selfish person, I'm making choices for me, for my happiness, I don't care if everyone around me is screwed over, I'm happy, right?
Right.
There's that extreme, and then there's over here, which is, so that's selfish, right? And over here is, I am willing to
honor myself.
Yeah, and I think that's the sweet spot in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Over here on the other side is I haven't checked in with myself. I haven't told the truth. I haven't
Right.
made that bold decision to actually tell the truth or do what's right in my life. And I have just sucked it up in all areas until there is no soul left in me. Those are your two extremes, right?
Right.
Complete selfish and not selfless, victim, martyr, afraid of your own life, right?
Right.
And then that sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah.
How do you navigate between those two?
Yeah, that's the tricky
And when
part,
you
right?
and you when you're over here and you take two steps, how do you think? Okay, I'm not over here. You know.
Right. Yeah. Great point. I think for me, I did a ton of just prayer, ton of meditation, really checking in and just being honest with myself. That was the first step I had to take. I had to just truly get honest with myself and look myself in the mirror and go, "You're not happy." And
What parts had you not been honest with yourself on?
just the reality of your heart's not in this, and either and if you know you can't put your heart into it, then you owe it to yourself and everyone else to put it in a position where you can truly have your heart in that, so that everyone else can experience that as well, whatever that looks like. And I didn't know specifics at that point, but I did know I'm going to have to make some bold choices if that's where I'm at. I just knew one thing I knew for sure was I was going through the motions, and I was empty, and I knew my kids could feel that. They could feel something was off. They, my second oldest daughter mentioned a month ago, she said, "Dad, I feel like I know you better than I've ever known you now."
Wow. Do you feel like you've come more alive? Or
Oh
what?
yeah, for sure. Just the willing to, because I'm settled in my heart space, I'm no longer looking for outside things to make up the difference. I can truly connect and be available for my kids like I never was.
You're not spending all your emotional energy trying to lie to yourself and say this is okay.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah, and spending all the time and money rearranging furniture when that's not what they or I needed. And every one of my kids, I can say I have my best relationships I've had with them. Does it still require work? Do I still need to be vulnerable and talk? Yes. And I realized, you know what? Either path I chose, staying or leaving, required work. The difference now is all my minutes are actually building something, in a joyful way, where before it felt like that's going to break even.
Got it.
Because either one, you're going to work. So it's kind of like going to a job. It's like, well, I got to make a paycheck versus I know I want to do this business, but it's going to require work and hours. Both of them require, but when it's your dream, it doesn't feel like work. You'll put more in, your passion's behind it because your heart space is the momentum versus just trading time for money on the other side.
That makes sense. I just realized in that moment that I forgot to introduce you, so I'll go back and record that. I'll go back and record that.
That's right.
That's the only one time I asked you. I had a train of thought here. What did I want to ask you, Chad? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. It takes a while.
Yeah.
My old age. So,
To later now.
yeah. Oh, no, I forgot it again. Hold on. Okay. So I'm wondering if you were in that position. I hear this from friends sometimes as they think about, I could, just leave this situation and find something better or find someone who, or, grass is always greener.
Right.
When you left, you weren't dating anyone else. You hadn't been in love in 30 years.
Right.
How did you talk yourself into, I'm going to leave what is okay but takes a lot of emotional energy into being alone. Sometimes that's a big decision for a lot of people. Will you talk to me about that?
Yeah. So for me, I was embracing the reality. I mean, I was 54 at the time, and I really kind of thought, oh, well, this isn't like, a year in or a few years in, and, I'm still
This is 30
on the market,
years.
baby. Is there anyone out there? I mean, I think the window's already closed, and so that was a real possibility that I may not end up with anyone again.
And you were fine with that. You had accepted that.
I had, because I realized, you know what, if I can find me in the middle of all this, and I had every intention of staying extremely involved with all my kids, and they get to see me, and I get to, find me and figure and discover that part of me. It would be worth it if that's all that comes. And then, fortunately, I found someone else as well, and that was a bonus. But I realized
you just called your wife a bonus, yeah? Just making sure that just happened.
Okay, we better edit that. Amazing bonus. But yeah, I was willing to embrace. This goes back to a point I wanted to make about the bold choices and those moments where if you know your train is on a track that no longer is taking you to that joyful space, and you can look across and right over the, you can see where you want to be, but this train's never going to be on that track. And then there's a moment where you have that rail switcher, lever, and
that's your bold choice.
You make the bold choice, and okay, I've got to make that choice at this time. There's literally windows just like that. Otherwise, that lever's gone, and who knows when you're going to be able to, that situation comes up, or you've got the courage to flip that switch again. In that moment, as you would expect, your mind starts freaking out. Your logical voices in your head will challenge your bold choice. It'll challenge your intentions. It will say you're being extremely selfish. Combined with the fact that all the people that you thought were your friends, family,
will all hate you.
Everyone will hate you. Prepare for that. They will challenge. They will say you're being selfish, which I don't hold any malice to any of them, and I totally see and empathize with their side of it, with the information they have and not knowing my path and having the path that they've chosen. And I only know for me what lives, and it just had to be from my heart, a clear heart space, knowing I had done everything in my control to make it work, and then the next challenge is building forward and working daily, even by the minute, to not keep looking back and asking what if, because there's no control over that anymore.
That's powerful. So don't look back and say what if. Once the bold choice has been made, you move forward. What were your biggest fears when you made that bold choice, and have those fears come true, or what were those big fears?
Yeah, probably big fear was because I am somebody who it's important to me that people like me, and so I've had to
You're a human.
Okay.
Just
Definitely
making
recalibrate that, right? Yeah.
You pissed a lot of people off,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are not fans.
Right.
In your wife's family, I'm guessing.
Yeah, a combination of either making them angry or hurt, which I realized too, a lot of the anger is also projected grief. You move through all those emotional phases, right? And that was a big surprise. That was really tough. I just saw what was in front of me. It's like I have got to shift this couple situation, this marriage situation, for me to be able to, take my next step. What I didn't see was all of the relationships behind her that I also cared about. Her family, her mom, people I was really close to, that not only suddenly it's like it feels like a death. It really does. And you have to grieve the loss. They're grieving your loss, you're grieving theirs, where you may never see them again, talk to them. If you do, it's
Stilted.
it's uncomfortable. All brand new stuff. It's a 180 from where you were. And
So that's the fear that you should have been afraid of, but
Mhm.
but didn't see coming. What were the fears that you were afraid of, and how did those turn out?
yeah, I was afraid I'd be alone forever, and I would be lonely and depressed. That maybe for sure the fear that, what if it's totally the wrong decision and I'm on the outside looking in and I burn my bridges and then I can't go back. And that was a real possibility. That's the big leap of faith, is all that stuff's a possibility on the table. And only time will tell, where you land. I had to trust. I guess what got me through is trusting the intent of my heart and where my heart space was coming from, and truly in a form of love for me and those in my life. A higher form of love, that if it came from that place, that other side would also be taking care of me, for me, even when I couldn't see it, where I was at. And it really has. I feel super blessed emotionally with all those relationships. I really wanted to maintain at least a good friendship with my ex-wife, and I made a choice. It was in the first, about 9 months after I'd left, and we had finalized. She bought a home. We were trying in between homes and living in the basement of her mom's at the time I left. Well, about a year later, she found a home and decided to move out and get into her home, and I went, and it was kind of a remodel project, so I helped paint and helped her move in. And
That was about 9 months after your divorce.
yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah, and a lot of people were going, man, I took some lashings because family, her really close friends who were super loyal, some of them, let me know how they feel while I was there, moving boxes out, and I knew full well what I was walking into. And it was still more important to me that she knew, and she even asked me, why would you help me, with my house and moving? And I said, because you matter, and you will always matter to me. And that's all I can control, right? Is where is my intention and where I know my heart is. Now, I can't control if somebody believes I'm faking it, believes I'm trying to posture, believes whatever. They're gonna think whatever they think. All I know is I can only control my life and what I use with my time that I have.
Let's talk about, because that's the only time you got emotional in this conversation is when you're talking about your former wife. That's the big fear, isn't it? I will hurt this person who has dedicated their life to me and with me. We have children together. We've got 28 years together.
Yeah.
How do you move past, I will devastate this person's life?
Yeah. Honestly, it's daily. It's by the minute. It's constantly on my mind. I'm prepared to. I've got to own all of that. I've had individual conversations with each of them, including her, and with each of my kids. And I just told each of them up front. I know this has been hell on earth, and I want you to know, one, that I love you, and two, and I always have, and two, that I'm sorry for the pain that my choices caused. And some of those conversations were, really, really scary. My oldest son's probably had the hardest time transitioning, and he was the last one I talked to. And we were at lunch together. I asked him if he'd go to lunch, and I fully expected that he might even refuse just the invitation. He said yes, and then I told him that, and I didn't know what to expect after that. And he just said, "Dad, he said, thank you for telling me, and I love you and I forgive you." And then he stood up and came around. We both just stood and hugged each other in the restaurant. Didn't care who was watching, and he just held on to me for a long time, and it felt really good. But it required some bold choices for me to create that space, and I had to go first. I own it was my choice, so I own the responsibility to be the initiator. I don't expect any of them to come to me. I've written a letter to my former mother-in-law that I was super close to, and she came up to during my daughter's reception and thanked me for the letter and told me she loved me. And so different steps, that has, again, it would be easy to just kind of try to work around it and avoid it, but I really believe it's up to us what we make it.
So when do you forgive yourself? You made the bold choice. You knew in your heart it was the right choice. Mm-hmm. You had confirmation from Spirit, God, whatever that is to people. You knew it was the right choice, but you had to flip the switch. Life didn't do it to you or for you.
Right.
And so then you held on to and possibly still hold on to, I have hurt all these people. Mm-hmm. When and how do you forgive yourself for that?
Boy, that's the hardest one of all. It really is. Because as we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, this was by choice, and it doesn't get any easier when you see other people's challenges and the things they have that they're dealing with physically, emotionally, that wasn't their choice, or health things or whatever, and the pain that creates, and it adds even more weight. Going, man, I created all this. My choice. There's a real case that we definitely wouldn't be going through these types of events had I not made that choice. And I guess my best answer is it's a daily process, lots of meditation, and rechanneling my time and my energy into things I can control within that, which is rather than me feeling guilty and painful about it, how can I take the same energy and build something from it? Build a relationship, go serve somebody else, self-care. But like anything else in life, it's a daily, act of service to let go, and then you factor in how, anytime there's a holiday or anything else, it easily can spin you right back into it, to where it's not if but when you're going to be, you got to process again and again and again, and get outside help, get people around you that support, can help walk you through and talk you through. Being kind to yourself.
Excuse me. It's so interesting that whether you've lost a child or a sickness or whatever else, if life has kind of happened to you, it requires a lot of grief and a lot of processing and a lot of therapy and whatever else. We, as a culture, I don't think are as mindful as when you make these bold choices, when you flip that train track to a different track. That can cause as much grief, as much trauma, as much processing, as much therapy when you have chosen that versus when it happened to you. I think that's remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's really just a different version of it, but you go through all those same emotions, and it completely redefines. I mean, I've never made a single choice that has been so transcendent across. Because you think, for every Christmas, the holidays. I mean, it always feels different because you always go back. I was talking to my counselor shortly after the divorce, and he said, even your kids, even if they know you're happier, they will still, majority of the time, say, given the choice of you being together, even if you were unhappy or divorcing to be happy, they would still want you together because it's normal. It's familiar for them. And that was one of the toughest choices because I literally am, it's like putting, my own oxygen mask on first. Even when it doesn't make sense to them and it looks completely selfish, I knew where I was headed and what I had to do, not only for my best interest, but ultimately for theirs. And we've had to, of course, they've gone from the anger and the grief to we just keep building and to where we're in really good places now. Still definitely lots of work to do, but I would have had lots of work to do the other way as well. But I am happy with the direction it's going. And thankfully, they're super forgiving and loving, and there's things out of my control that I feel extremely blessed, on this side of it, that I had, no control if or when some of those things would happen and how my kids would accept me and be involved in my life. And it's just kind of one little miracle after another that is a testament to, their character and, their version of love.
A couple questions for you. If you could go back and be the Chad you are now, right before you chose to make that decision to pull that train track switch, what advice would you give yourself?
I would I guess the term, I think it's Dave Matthews saying, say what you need to say. I love that song. I would probably say what I needed to say back then.
Got it.
I wouldn't say nothing's wrong or I'm fine.
You would tell the truth.
I would, because at some point, one thing I have noticed, the truth's going to come out. Every little piece of it. I mean, nothing is in the dark. And especially when you get divorced, I mean, all the feelings come out and everything. So it's like, if the intention is to, to put yourself in a position to win with the relationship, it has to start with that, no matter how scary it is. And then trust that, because, through walking through that fire of authenticity and transparency and vulnerability, that there's something, you got to trust that there's something on the other side, but all you can control is going through the fire initially and then trusting what's on the other side. I always wanted to back my way into that, somehow avoid it, and then peek around the wall and see if, is there really something, and even then I didn't have the courage to do it. So, from my perspective, that was probably the one single thing. I don't know, because even counseling, you can kind of go through the process and the rhetoric and stuff, and but yeah, being completely honest and just saying things that need to be said as early as often and as early and as often as is necessary.
Okay. Another question. Another question, 2 or 3 years in the future, what would you want for yourself?
Um,
First of all, do you want to forgive yourself, or are you still holding on to that penance piece?
yeah, my perfectionist blueprint definitely likes to have that beat up stick just at the ready, just in
It
case.
just feels good sometimes, take
Yeah.
that bad boy out,
Right.
beat yourself.
Yeah, and especially when you get divorced, I think you can just sense, and if not, you can fill in the blanks for yourself, which I'm happy to do. I'll go ahead and fill in the blank of what that person should be thinking about me.
Got it.
And
You'll tell them for you.
Yeah,
This is why you hate me.
yeah,
This is why you
exactly.
should hate me.
You should hate me.
This is why I'm an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Here's all the evidence, and
Mhm.
that's what's tough, is because the divorce really has tangible evidence to it at that point, versus kind of a relationship where you're just quirky or whatever. But no, you're like, and you're
left
the one.
your 28
You're the
year
one that left. Yeah.
You are the jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's gotta feel good.
And as I've studied, divorce, they've said one of you ultimately has to be the initiator, which I was, and whoever's the initiator will always feel and be viewed as, kind of it'll skew toward it was your issue,
Your fault.
your fault. Yeah.
So you said the word always. Do you think that is true? Do you think you will always feel that, or do you think there's some kind of self-forgiveness somewhere in the future? And I'd love to hear the honest truth on that.
Honestly, we should talk in 3 to 5 years and see where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because it's in my opinion, 3 years still really recent.
Will you say that again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
In my opinion, 3 years still fairly recent, so everything is really fresh right now. And so, yeah, it does feel like, I don't know, I mean, it's so heavy and intense sometimes, just that we're still figuring, we only had, a couple of years of holidays and going through, and now we got another marriage and blending families, and it's just always in my face of this transition, which is constantly begs the question of, I mean, you made all of this happen, and so I feel guilty when the kids have to come to my house. They got 2 houses. There's so much to just feel guilty about, the logistics alone, much less the emotion. And that's my dream, is that I can be at a point, one, where I've got that I really know and feel, and I don't even know how maybe just the evidence of feedback or how my kids respond to me, but that they just hold me in that space that, Dad, we understand. Not only do we forgive you, but we're grateful for the new side that we now see, and they're grateful for the another blueprint to look at and compare notes for their relationships. I would hope for my ex-wife and I to have a really good friendship, that at some point all the pain could be replaced with building forward, and a mutual respect and appreciation for the time we had together, for our kids together, obviously. I don't have any regrets for any of the history. If somebody said, okay, if you could do it all over again, would you say no? If you knew what you did now? And no, because it also made me who I am. Going through the lessons, going through the experiences, having the kids that we have, it's made them strong, and it's so tough to, I wouldn't give up the growth that I got because of it. But moving forward, I love to transition to a whole nother arena that might be even rare for former partners to have, of or her her and her new spouse and me and my spouse can be together and actually, have fun together as friends.
That would be rare indeed.
Yeah, it would be rare,
I've seen
wouldn't
it every
it?
once in a while.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
nice. That's interesting that that's your goal.
So that's my
your
vision.
dream.
Yeah.
My vision for you, if I can be so bold and give that to you, is I would love to see you have the desire to put down the stick. Like when you
Right.
talk about forgiveness, it's I want forgiveness from my children. It would be really nice to not to be able to instantly say I forgive myself, but to even move into the space of I want that forgiveness of myself. I want to put the stick down.
Right. Yeah. I think it somehow having the stick helps me get through each day because
It's security.
It's security.
If I punish myself enough for doing this, then I'm actually not a bad person.
Right.
Because I'm self-punishing.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's the reality, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very human space to be in.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about or cover before we wrap up?
Let me maybe bringing up the concept of stewards.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I've gone through this, I'm kind of just doing my life path, and you and I are business owners, and you're kind of always pursuing that next level, and you move from growth and survival to making a difference through your business, and the reality, I can't remember where I a podcast or something that somebody talked about stewardship, and that in reality none of us own anything. We're all stewards. We're managing things that happen to be in our possession at that point in time, but at some point someone will have our house, someone will be driving our car. And I think relationships are the same thing, where your kids grow up and move on. I've had it always is super emotionally it's a big emotional stretch every time one of my kids marries and moves out or goes to college, and because in my mind I want things to kind of stay in their little box, and to be able to it's helped me kind of let go of trying to control things and having things on a shelf in a certain order, and being in flow with my life, and being okay that it's not okay, or being okay that it's not the way everybody thinks it should be, but being okay that it feels natural for wherever I'm at, and letting my kids feel what they feel, and letting me feel what I feel, and not getting wrapped up in I put way too much energy into accumulating trophies and hitting certain income levels or acquiring things, and realizing I think that's one thing. Maybe it's one of the blessings of the divorce is it's really redefined my definition of what value is, or sped that lesson up for me, where it's really about people and the relationships and connecting and making a difference at a emotional level. And I've always heard that, but there's a difference of experiencing it and living it and being in a position where, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is what it feels like. And it's been really freeing to shift my motivation or method of operation from acquiring and trying to navigate relationships or acquiring things to being the best steward I can. Managing. I looked up the definition of steward. I was curious about it. And the English definition of steward is a person, and especially, is a person whose job is to manage the land and property of another person. Someone who protects or is responsible for money and property. The biblical version of it is utilizing and managing all resources God provides to the glory of God and the betterment of His creation. A central essence of biblical worldview stewardship is managing everything God brings into the believer's life in a manner that honors God. So I guess that kind of, to summarize things, that's kind of my new direction. I can't live backwards. And who knows, I may have made the worst decision of my life by giving up after 28 years. At the same time, there's been lots of miracles and amazing things on this side of that choice too. And I can continue to just go from that heart space of being honest, of trying to be the best steward and managing and making a difference in a positive way to maximize the value that I can give others, mostly emotionally, and then just trusting He's going to fill in the gaps, the stuff that's out of my control. And people are going to think what they think either way. And I'm getting better at letting go of, all those possibilities, simply because it's exhausting, and it's a waste of my time. Every minute I spend in that space is less time I can be, building something else.
I think you said it best when you said, I never forgot what you said. Stretching out, sorry. I think you said it best when you said, I need to be okay in my not okayness. I need to be okay in my mess, and I need to be okay with my kids being in that emotional turmoil as well.
Right.
I think that is kind of the ticket.
Yeah.
It's not about getting out of this and everything will be okay and shiny and sunny one day.
Yep.
It's being okay with people around you having a hard time and with you having a hard time.
Yeah, and interesting is I've had those tough conversations where I've just listened as my kids have shared their pain, not only just for my stuff, but as they're searching and they've got questions and they're on their life path, and it's literally their life. I can't do it for them, but I can be there and listen. And it felt messy and sticky and uncomfortable, but I thought, I'm going to go here like I've never gone before, and because I know I've never gone down this road definitely enough, and it's the only road left. So I'm going to go and see if it kills me, then so be it. At least I went. And what I find is it's the opposite. It actually creates more life in me, and as I reflect back on those moments, and my kids reflect back on those conversations, the ugly, awkward, messy stuff ends up being the beautiful stuff.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like that's the point right there. The messy, the sticky, the ugly. You went down a path you hadn't gone down before. You hung with it. You just listened and were there, and that is the beauty.
It's awesome.
Ah, I love that. I love that. All right. Really quickly, let's go back in time to introducing you.
Yay. Who is this guy anyway?
So I want to introduce Chad to you. Chad is a 21-year founder of Pinpoint Management, which is his dream business.
Yes.
Not a lot of people get to say that. That's really cool. He specializes in giving business owners maximum time and money freedom doing what they love. And he has a business admin degree from Weber State here in Utah, and he is a life path trainer and facilitator. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, and then let's go to our giveaways. Let me do that so you know that. Well, it has been, nope. I think I turned on my notifications when I turned them off, so that's annoying.
Perfect.
So it has been an absolute pleasure connecting with you today. Thanks for being here. I know this is a tough topic, and you just like those conversations with your kids, you just went there, right?
Yeah.
Leaned into the messy, the sticky, and that is what ends up being beautiful. That's my favorite part of our entire conversation today.
Yes.
As we wrap things up, reminder that the goal of this podcast is to learn from others, like Chad, or just feel heard when life is coming at you hard, or when you're making those bold choices. Know that all members of the human family are here with you. We are all going through it, and sometimes it just feels great to know that you are not alone. I have an invitation to our listeners. If you have been through a life-changing experience having to do with body positivity, overcoming an eating disorder, losing weight in a sustainable way, and you would like me to ask you awkward questions about it so your experience can help others, please leave a comment, naturally with your 5-star review, and we'll follow up with you. And we've got 2 giveaways today. I should have said this in the beginning as well. So we're excited to talk to you, Chad, in just a minute, but we have a giveaway. Actually, we've got 2 giveaways at the end of this program today. One from Card Salad, our sponsor, and one from you with Pinpoint Management. So all our listeners, stay tuned for that. And then we'll go back to the end here. So our giveaway from our sponsor, Card Salad, if you leave a comment about your favorite quote or idea that you got from Chad, tell us why you love that, how it impacted you, and I will pick my favorite each week, and I'll send you a free Eat Well starter kit. This is a $150 value, so I'm excited to see what was the impactful piece about what Chad said. And Chad's giveaway is his business, ppmanagement.com. He would love to give a Freedom Fast Track session for people feeling financially and time trapped. So Chad's business also has a giveaway. So his business, ppmanagement.com, he wants to give a Freedom Fast Track session for people who are feeling financially and time trapped or just would like to get to the next level faster. So this is a 30-minute session with you directly, right? Mm-hmm. That's really. So next week we'll continue to explore strategies and experiences of being in the deep end with no floaties. And as always, we try to answer the question, what do you do when you're still in the middle, when you haven't had it all figured out yet? There's no happy ending yet. There's no happy bow tie to tie around everyone's experiences. How do you find your way when you haven't found your way? Thanks for joining us, Chad, and thanks to our listeners. This is Deep End No Floaties. And thank you in advance to our listeners for giving us a positive review. Thanks.
Thank you.